Buongiorno, my loves. Hello. We are here today being joined by the most beautiful and wonderful Sari Sironen. Is that the right way to say it? Is that
Yes,
right? Yeah.
exactly. Yes.
Okay. All right. So Sari and I are colleagues, and we are actually working with each other on a couple of different projects. And we were introduced by a wonderful friend, mutual friend of ours, Marika. And Sari, why don't you tell us a little bit about your background so people know where you come from and what your story is?
Sure. So I live in Finland, in really close to Helsinki, and I am a coach since last year. I did the training last year. Um, and before that, I worked for the government for several years in environmental policy. And then I just felt that it was time for me to move on from there. So I made the switch last year and decided finally to become a coach, which has been my dream for a couple of years. And so yeah, now that's what I do now, building my own coaching business.
So
And
yeah, I want
yeah,
to pick your brain. Why did you want to flip to coaching? I want to know.
that's a good question. I was thinking actually already in 2015, I was thinking like there is more than this government job. Like, what is it that I want to do actually? And the coaching, like life coaching, just kept coming up. I don't know why exactly, but it was like, it was really calling me somehow. And I was like, okay, yes, maybe later, not not now. It sounds like too far off from the government job. And then I just felt like I had maybe had enough years in the government to see that it wasn't a fit for me. So I finally made the switch last year.
So what do you like about coaching? What does it give to you that the government job didn't give to you?
Mm. I love connecting with people, and coaching is really a new way for me actually to connect in a different way that I'm used to,
Mm.
in a kind of deeper level. And that's not something that you easily find in the government job with between countries and maybe between colleagues, but definitely like negotiating between countries, it's not really there usually. um, and I just fell in love with personal development a couple of years ago
Mm.
and had some really important insights for myself, and I just love sharing that knowledge and helping others to get insights as well.
Yeah, I think one of the fascinating things that's going on right now is that it's like the whole world is going through this personal development experiment right now. Like it's
Yeah.
just it's this is like
Yeah.
what happens when we're thrust into these really unusual situations. That's just what happens. We have personal development during that time. And I so agree with you that I feel for me a lot of it was like these skills that I got through my training are so helpful in this space that when we are going through personal development and growth, these skills are really, really helpful. And so for me, I mean, I'm like, well, everybody should have access to this. You know, we should be able
Yeah.
to share this with absolutely everybody.
Mhm.
And how can we do that the best? Because it was so helpful for me.
Yeah, I agree 100%. And then when you learn those skills yourself, you, like you said, you just want everybody to know them. It just gives such a depth to to your own,
Yes.
to life.
Yeah, I would agree with that. So this is one of my most favorite skills actually that we were both trained on because we're both trained in the coactive model.
Yes.
And it's a coaching skill for everyone too. So it's a skill called reframes. And so, okay, do you want to explain what would be your definition of what reframes are?
Uh, in short, I would just say that it's looking at the same thing from a different angle, kind of finding out that there is more than just one way of seeing the thing
Yeah.
that you're looking at.
Yeah. It's for me, I really like, I mean, I like the image of reframing something. So it's like we have something that's going on in our life, and every once in a while we can put a different frame around it. And I think it's so helpful to be able to move back and forth between that. And for me, you know, my personal sort of like one of the biggest reframes that I got was I had sort of accepted this frame that being a stay-at-home mom for 6 years had given me no skills, had done nothing for me, that I wasn't valuable in any other sector in the world, basically, because I didn't have anything to offer there. And it was so that like there's a huge reframe around this that's really, and especially in different cultures, it's actually it's a frame is put around it differently too. And when I started realizing that there was a possibility of a new frame around this, all of a sudden I stopped limiting myself and just started being able to go do all of the things that I wanted to do in the world.
Yeah, that's so valuable to have that insight from. And it's interesting, like where do we get the kind of the spark? Where do we find the new frame? Because you kind of get locked into that one frame, and then what happens so that you can actually find another one?
Yeah, I think that's a really interesting question, because for me, going through coach training, it was not like your story. Like I was like, oh, coaching, like, first of all, stupidest name ever, like stupidest, worst marketing branding decision made sometime in the 90s ever. Like it's just the worst branding ever. And I think partially because of that, I was so intensely disinterested in it for a really, really long time. And it kept kind of cropping up. Like I kept listening to podcasts and it would be like, oh, coach, and like, oh, and it kind of kept coming. And I was like, oh my gosh, those people are so dumb. Like that is just the most like, blah, 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 like touchy feely sort of dumb thing ever. And so I was really, 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 really resistant to it. And I remember it was finally one day I was listening to a podcast, and this woman was talking about how she is a coach, and she said what she did, which was she was basically like, I get to chat with people about the most amazing things that they're being called to do, and then help them find the ways on the inside for them to just go do that. Like I get to do that every day. And it's basically like I'm having conversations with my best friends all day long. Like that's basically what I do, is I have amazing deep conversations with my best friends all day long. And I was like, I like doing that. Like that I definitely like to do, you know? And so, and that was what started me on doing it. So even that was like a reframe around this story that I had in my head around what coaching was about.
Yeah. And I feel like sometimes the metaphor I've used for myself, like what I have seen, is kind of sometimes it's just a room that has one door, and I feel like I'm, hitting my head against the wall, like against the door, and it's not opening. And that's like what I've been doing for a long time. And then I think I heard this from somewhere, kind of like, if you turn around, there is another door that's been open all the time. And then I kind of reframed the thought, like, okay, let's see what's behind me. Oh, like there is light. It's not dark, it's not closed, like let's go there.
I love that so much. Yeah. And I feel like that for me, a lot of that like unstuckness feeling, that feeling of like not having to, because I am a person who will just persistently knock and knock and knock at the door. Like I knock at that door I just keep knocking at that door until that door opens. And that's like, I
Yeah.
learned from a young age, like grit and perseverance and all of that kind of stuff, which I think are actually really valuable skill sets. And I think that there
Yeah.
are times when just sitting there and knocking over and over and over again is helpful. And
Definitely.
for me personally, it becomes more of an adventure when I can start looking around and being like, oh, I can jump in through the window, you know, or I can do it in all of these different ways. It becomes more of an adventure and almost like more fun.
Yeah, and like new things open up from there. I feel like that.
I totally
And also, isn't it great to see the clients, like you get to talk with them and you get to actually see them do the things that they want to do, and see, like then what opens up from there. Like I find that so inspiring.
and this is what I hear over and over and over again from coaches, and my personal experience too is like, it's just so inspirational because it inspires me as well when I see people going out and doing amazing things and like having amazing experiences in their lives. And this is what I say this to a lot on Facebook, and it seems like people don't believe me, but I'm like, I'm so inspired by you, you know? And I'm like, thank you for posting your like workout pictures. That's very inspirational for me because there are days when I'm just like, there's no part of me that wants to do that, you know? Like I just don't.
Exactly. Yeah.
And it's the same thing too with like, I don't know, like going and conquering anything that I feel like that's where I should be going. When I see somebody else doing it, and when I get to a certain degree participate in just like in that relationship with somebody else that's doing it, it inspires me to go and do that, like continue in that way in myself as well.
Yeah, like be the biggest version of yourself as well when you see your clients do that, and then it's kind of like you feed from each other from that.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
That's awesome.
And this is like, for me, I really feel so much like I have such a passion for bringing mothers, especially into this space, because I think that this is exactly what moms do. Like, I think moms, they look at their kids and they're like, I don't know, but I know where they want to go. I know that we kind of jointly want them to go to this place of being the most amazing person that they can possibly be. You know, that's kind of like the goal of every mom is like, listen, I don't care how you turn out, man. I just want you to be the best version of you that you can possibly be. And that's like that coach space. Like that's how every coach that I've ever had has held that for me, which is it's like this huge gift that I get of like another person on my team that's like, I don't care what you do, Carmen. I will literally always love you no matter what. And all I want for you is the very best for you in your life. And I feel like moms do that with their kids so much too.
Exactly. And also I feel like there can never be enough, like too many of people like that in our lives.
Never. Like literally never. I know. I feel the same way too. Like my friends that are in that space with me, I'm like, you are a coach, you just don't know it.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's what happens at home with my son as well every day. Like moments of kind of coaching, but it's like kind of being a mommy and a coach at the same time. And I just, like you said, I feel like it's many times it's the same. It's in the same kind of family.
So this is fascinating. We were actually talking about this before because we have Sari's son is 9 and my youngest guy is 8. And so we kind of, we have some similarities of experiences there. And I think that with my kids, so there's like really pure coaching, which is where we're just in this space of really just like, I don't know, there's something that you want to grow with, and I'm going to be that's what our goal is. That's what our goal is for right now in this space. And usually coaching conversations are like about an hour long or so. And they're kind of like that, designed on purpose because it's kind of intense. And so with my kids, I use the coaching skills a lot when I am interacting with them. Like I will use reframes. I will be like, okay, so you hate your little brother because he doesn't actually fold the laundry very well, you know? So what if instead of you having to fold the laundry and learning how to fold the laundry better, what if instead you're learning the skill set of patience and how to grow new leaders around you? I literally had this conversation with my children this morning. And it was like I was offering them a reframe. I was like, there's this frame around this that you're putting, which is like, I don't like folding the laundry with my little brother because he just messes around. And so I was like, what if what you're learning right now is this skill set of how to grow other leaders? And I said to him, I was like, I was a baby of the family. I didn't have this gift, you know? So I just had to experiment on you kids all the time because I never learned when I didn't have anybody younger than me. So I didn't ever get to like learn how to grow. Whereas my older brother and sister did, like they had experience and they had kids in how to grow people. And so I was like, what if you're learning a different skill set right now? What if this is a different thing?
Yeah.
So that's like a coaching skill, this coaching skill of reframes. So I use it a lot in my interactions with my kids, but I don't very often go into that really pure coaching relationship with them. And I ask them before I go there, I'll be like, do you want me to coach you now at this point? Because they can tell when I kind of move into that space. And I asking permission is also a coaching skill that we
definitely. Yeah, I haven't been really coaching my son, but one day a few weeks ago he had some issue that he was having trouble with, and then I tried to avoid like going into the coaching mode and be more like in the mommy mode. And he was like, well, are you going to coach me or not? I was like, well, I don't know. And he's like, well, you are the coach in the family, so why don't you do that? And I'm like, okay, let's do it. So we had a really awesome session. Yeah,
that's amazing.
that was,
what a gift.
mm,
That's awesome.
kids are really good in challenging us parents as well, like that. And another coaching skill I feel like is really useful in parenting as well is kind of the recognizing emotions and really like saying them out loud, and like, what's that? And maybe helping them to recognize what they're feeling or asking questions about them. That's been really useful.
I was literally just having a conversation with some of my girlfriends last night about this, about like, how do we help our kids even recognize their emotions? And this was, so Antonina and I had this discussion last time, and she was like, we don't develop that in our brains fully until we're 25 years old. And I was like, oh my gosh, no wonder I was so confused for so long. Like, oh my God. And so I think that's so helpful too with kids, is just like starting to just name it and be like, this thing that's going on inside of your body right now, this is what this is called, and just naming it and then not being attached to it. I feel like that is another thing that it's another coaching skill that was a really big one for me, was like blurting it and then not being attached to it, being like, I think that maybe what's going on, but I could be totally wrong. Like, I don't know what's going on inside of you. And but having the audacity to blurt it and say it and name it, and completely like disconnected with it and be like, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm completely wrong about all this stuff.
Exactly. And sometimes that really helps with the reframing as well, because it's another frame that you are suggesting. It may be not the right one in that situation, but it kind of like can switch the perspective a little bit, so the client or the child or whoever you're having the discussion with, or maybe even yourself, can find another frame from there.
Yeah, definitely. So I want to know, what's your favorite reframe? What's your favorite reframe that has maybe happened in your life, or that you've seen? I mean, there are even reframes that are going on all the time right now, you know? So what's your favorite one that you've kind of had in your life? Or
I have a couple quite big ones that's happened. but I would say one is the job that I already mentioned. And I was, for a long time, I was wondering, like, because I never got, what's the word in English? Like a steady job in the government. I made like projects,
Yeah.
and then I was unemployed between the projects.
Yeah.
And I was really wondering, like, why is it not happening for me? Why I can't find a steady job from there? And it seems just hard. um, and then I was unemployed for a while, and that's the first time I thought, like, okay, there needs to be a gift, like in all this, and what is the gift actually? And the gift was definitely actually the moment, the time that I got to spend unemployed, and kind of recover from all the stress from work, and really start to see, like, who am I and what do I want from life. And there began a lot of things, like the coaching idea. I started to write a book. I started to study yoga, and just like I guess now that I look at it, it's just like it was the turning point that made my life more happy in many ways. But it was definitely this reframe. Like I chose not to look at the frame anymore. Like, why is the career not happening? Like, what's wrong with me? What is it? Like, okay, what's the other thing that's possible here?
I I I think that's so awesome. And I also feel like that's a very relevant to now reframe, because I think that so many people have been sort of shaken. Like it was like the whole world was like, like shaken up. And
Yes.
we're like shake and bake right now. And so it's like, what what is this? Like, what is this? Why did this all happen? And like, what is happening right now? Even, and I think each one of us has a very individual thing that's going on inside of us. I think that we're really joined in a lot of ways, and I think that we also each have our own individual thing that's going on inside of us that's like, good grief, what does this all mean? And when we can find that gift perspective from it and be like, this there, and I agree, the gift perspective is one of my favorite perspectives. And it's always whenever I get to that point of being like, well, this just sucks. Like all of this sucks. Why would this
Yeah.
happen? Like why would this happen? That I try to really like kind of constantly just get into the habit of immediately, whenever I recognize that that's what's going on inside of me, I'll be like, what's the gift? And
Yeah.
sometimes I can't find the gift for a while, and that's
Yeah.
okay. It's just that I know that that's what I'm in search of all the time.
Yeah. Yeah, it's almost this yes and thinking, like, yes, this sucks a lot, and what is the gift?
Yeah.
And maybe, like you said, maybe it's not possible to see the gift now, but I know that there is a gift. I will see it at some point.
Yes.
But yes, it sucks, and there is a gift.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. I think that that is so, it's such a helpful place for me. And it's also helpful in reframes when I do acknowledge the place that I am in right now. I do acknowledge, yes, this is the frame that's going on right now. That's okay. Like, whatever. I don't know, for whatever reason, that's the frame that's there. That's there. That's cool. And there are a myriad of frames that we can put around this. I really like for one of the ideas behind this is that people know that if there's like a car accident and they go get witnesses to tell, like the police or whomever about the car accident and what happened in that car accident, that literally every single person will tell a different story. Like it's slightly different, the story of what happened with the accident, because they're looking at it from their perspective. They're looking at it from who they are, what their stories are that they've had in the past of their lives, and like literally even where they were standing on the road, that they could see it in different ways. And so
Yeah.
for me, it's like almost like a game inside of my head to be like, there are an infinite number of perspectives on this same thing. There are an infinite number of frames that we can put around this. Just let's go find a couple that are different, and maybe one of them will be the one that's really helpful here.
Exactly. I found it really interesting when I heard a few years ago Brené Brown say, like, because our brain is wired to make up stories, and so when we get like some facts, then our brain like kind of fills the facts so we have a complete story. And like, it just reminded me when you talked about the car accident, like probably the story is not correct at all. You just have like some facts, and then your brain comes up with the rest.
Yes.
So it's and then you start to believe in the story because it makes sense probably, and then it's really helpful kind of to challenge it, like, is that really what happened?
Yes. And have the people around us that will be fiercely courageous in questioning those stories that we hold inside of our heads. It's, I mean, like, I would still be in a very, 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 very stuck place if I held this story in my head that my 6 years as a stay-at-home mom gave me nothing. Gave me no, I would be still in a very stuck place. And that is a story that I got almost from birth. Because in the culture that I was raised in, being a stay-at-home mom equated to zero value. Like, that's like, there's no money that was given to stay-at-home moms, and there was and not it was also equated as, you could have done something better with your life, like in terms of your career. Like, if you want to talk about with your career and like and are you going to be a successful quote unquote professional person, being a stay-at-home mom in the place that I was raised was, I got the story, at least for me personally, I got the story that it was really important to be a stay-at-home mom. Like, that was a really important thing. And that it was not a professional thing to do in any way whatsoever. And I got that story from like day one, you know, like it was so in my brain. It was from day one. And it took, you know, like 35 years. I had that story in my brain and I accepted it. I got into a habit of saying, oh yeah, that's the story. And not only that, I would tell other people that's the story, you know? And it was when somebody was fiercely courageous and came in and really started questioning that story in service to me, that I became unstuck. And I'm so grateful that I'm not stuck in that place anymore, you know?
Exactly. And that's kind of the gift, like, that's the moment that you're challenged somehow to come out of the story and to leave the story, or at least question the story. I find that so interesting, like what happens that we get to question the story and find a new frame, and it's different every time.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that something that I think you said before that I think is so powerful here is, as we're going out and maybe practicing this skill set too. So like, I challenge everyone who is watching or listening to this to like go out and start practicing this skill set. Something that is helpful to remember that Sari said before is this idea that sometimes it's not quite the right frame for that person or for ourselves. That sometimes we'll find a frame and there's resistance to accepting that frame for whatever reason. And that's okay. That doesn't mean that, you know, we stink at reframing or like reframing sucks or whatever. It just means that, like, for whatever reason, that one didn't quite like ring the quite right bell inside of ourselves or inside of that other person. And so, okay, like, all right, be completely detached from it and be like, okay, maybe there's another thing here. Like, what's another possibility in this place? And I personally love to, when I have the space and the capacity inside of myself, which I work really hard to make sure I've got space every day inside of myself to do this. I like to go and almost like act as an animal. Like, what would a dolphin say about this thing? You know, what would like a lioness say about this thing? What would an elephant say about this thing? How about a monkey? You know, how about like a stink bug. I don't know, like go from all of those different perspectives and reframe that same thing from those places, because usually I find something there that will help me with what that is.
Mhm. Yeah, I think that's really helpful to kind of finding the different angles, the different reframes for yourself. If there is nobody, if you don't have a coach who will help you to kind of reframe or help to find those. So the animals are really a good way to kind of see the different ways.
Yeah. Yeah. And for me, it helps me to get into that kid mode as well, which is a really good place of learning for me. Otherwise, I get stuck in being too responsible, and it just doesn't work very well. So.
Yeah, like dolphin, like it doesn't make any sense. Like, what are you talking about? Like, yeah, let's just be creative and kind of playful and see what comes up. Yeah,
exactly. I love that. Well, thank you so much for joining us for this conversation. I love, this is one of my most favorite coaching skills. And so, yeah, it's been fun to just play with you on this and hear your different stories about it too. So thanks for joining us. And if people want to find out more about you and chat with you, where can they find you?
I'm mostly on Instagram. It's Sari, but I can put the link in the in the comments of this. So yeah, I'm there quite a lot. It's mostly in Finnish, but I also do it in English. So if you have any comments, like it's both languages work for me.
I love that. And you know what's awesome too is I find people who are multilingual, bilingual, or multilingual are exceptionally good at reframes, because I think that it helps us to pop out of when we only have one language. I think that we're like, but no, a chair is a chair and there's nothing else that it can be. Whereas when we have these multiple languages, we're like, oh no, that's just a word that we put on that thing, and we can see, we have that agility of our minds too. So
that's so true. That's so true. Yeah. And thank you, Carmen, so much for inviting me here. It's been a really, really nice time talking with you and really inspiring.
Yeah, definitely.
And I wanted to say, I just finished your book, and that was like, I was so inspired by that and how you write. Like, really.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much. It's definitely one of my babies. Like it literally, that book is definitely, it's one of my children. So thank you. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I can relate. Thank you.
Well, thanks for joining us. And if you all have any questions or comments or anything about reframes or any further resources that you're looking for, be sure to comment below, because we're super happy to have this discussion. It's a really fun one. And that's why we're here, actually. So that's it. Have a beautiful day, everyone, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.